Hey guys, all right, we're going to take a quick set of notes today over exactly what a force is and types of forces. All right, so I'm going to label this as types of forces. That looks a little weird, huh? Forces, there we go. Okay, so this is types of forces. So first, let's do, I know we started working on a definition of a force earlier. I want to give you my definition real quick. All right, so a force, I like to think of it as an interaction between two objects that doesn't mean it always has to, but it can change the speed of the objects. So let's get that written down just as our definition of force. Okay, and a couple other notes to remember. Okay, so remember that there are always two objects. We're going to name those two objects now, okay? So one of the objects is going to be called the agent. All right, now the agent, like think about like James Bond, like secret agent. James Bond is out there doing things. He's the one that's giving the force to people, all right? So the agent, we say this applies the force. Okay, so if the force is a push, the agent is the one that's doing the pushing. And then we also have the receiver. And then receiver is really like kind of obvious because it receives the force, but it gets the force applied to it. All right, so agent and receiver, we're going to have to identify those two things, so we need to really keep those in mind, okay? All right, now that we've done that, I just want to give you the definition of a couple different types of force. Now, we always use this symbol, F, for force, but there's a bunch of different types of forces, so we're also going to add a little letter to identify what type of force it is. So the first one, the most obvious type of force that we see the most is F-P. And by the way, this is a little p. It's not like, it's a subscript. So it's kind of like down below the original F. All right, FP is a push or a pull. All right, so whenever we see two things in direct contact, it's FP. So like pushing a car is a great example of FP, a push or pull. All right, FG is the force of gravity. All right, and a big thing here is the force of gravity is always, it's always applied by the earth. So whenever we're talking about FG, our agent or the thing that's applying it is the earth. All right, let's do this one next. FF, see how that's like a little F down there? Friction, okay? We all kind of know what friction is, but friction is between two surfaces and it resists motion. So it always points in the opposite direction of where objects are trying to move. FT is tension. So tension, a great example is the book. So I'll just draw it, okay? So we had like our little book, and it was hanging by a string, right? Well, that's FT, okay? Tension force is holding something tight. All right, and then finally, this one's kind of tough to understand, but Fn is called normal force. All right, normal force happens when an object leans or sits on a flat surface. So the best way to think of this is just when you stand on the floor. All right, so if you've got the floor with a person on it, the floor exerts Fn, or normal force. It pushes you up. That's what keeps you from falling down. Okay, so we'll see some more examples of that today. Okay, that's the basics, guys. We need these written down on Cornell Notes. All right, you can either put it in your notebook or on one of the note sheets, but this is the basic stuff that's going to help you start to identify other forces.